Welcome back. I got another one for you. And this conspiracy, this rabbit hole, this urban legend is the number one killer around the country and the world. It is the root of money. Or the root of all evil is what they say. But with that one, that's what we're going to be getting into today. So with that one, go ahead, let's roll it.
Want to know what $1 trillion can buy? You could buy every single NFL team, every single NBA team, every single MLB team, every single NHL team 3 times.
What?
And have enough money left over to buy GM, Ford, KFC, Pizza Hut, and Taco Bell, and you'd still have $10 billion left over.
Oh,
wow.
My God.
You think they can't buy a president?
Right.
You think that kind of money can't buy you influence?
Right.
My God. One human being would have that much money. Dig on that.
Mark Zuckerberg is rich. But do we really know how absurdly rich he is? As of today, Mark Zuckerberg's net worth is $236 billion. And I'm going to break down just how much money this is. Let's start small. Buying a $5 coffee is equivalent to 1/1000th of a penny. Filling up a tank of gas is equivalent to $1.50 cents. Buying a $1 million home, that's 25 cents to him. Okay, let's get more expensive. Not only could Mark Zuckerberg buy the company and everybody involved with making the shirt on my back right now, he could buy 77% of the city that's on it. Now, when we're looking at full cities, Mark Zuckerberg could buy every single home in the city of Orlando, Nashville, Honolulu, Las Vegas. Every single house in those cities. Buying an NBA team for him is equivalent to us buying a new laptop. You know what's crazy? Is buying a round of drinks to Mark Zuckerberg is equivalent to him buying lunch for every single American. Jesus. If Mark Zuckerberg decided, I want to give away $1 million every day just to give back, it would take him 646 years to go broke. That's how rich he is. Some people work full-time for 20 years, and Mark Zuckerberg made that in the span of...
Income inequality is America's biggest problem, and I need to show you a snapshot of how bad it is and how bad it's gotten in the past 45 years. I'm going to break it down into 4 groups. So Americans, we hold about $164 trillion in wealth. Group number 1, as you can probably guess, is the top 1%. There are 3.3 million people in the top 1%, and they hold $50 trillion. The next 9%, there's about 30 million people, and they hold $60 trillion. So combining those 2 groups is the top 10% who hold $110 trillion of our nation's wealth. Now, group 3 is the next 40%. There's 133 million people in this group, and they hold $50 trillion. But this group number 3 is what I'm calling the old school middle class. A lot of people in this group are over 50 years old. These are factory workers, mailmen, school teachers, police officers, the old school American dream where you could buy a house and build wealth, invest a little in the stock market, and have a great retirement. Then we go to group number 4, which is the bottom 50%. There are 175 million people in the bottom 50%, and they hold only $4 trillion. Here is the craziest part about the whole thing. Back in the 1980s, adjusted for inflation, America's wealth was about $30 trillion. And today it's about $164 trillion. So in 45 years, the nation's wealth grew over $130 trillion. But unfortunately, back in 1980, the bottom 50% adjusted for inflation had $2 trillion of the nation's wealth. And today, it only has $4 trillion of the nation's wealth. So over $130 trillion went to the top 50%, and only $2 trillion went to the bottom 50%. And the nail in the coffin, the bottom 50% has 60 million more people in the group than it did in 1980. So that $2 trillion increase, that little $2 trillion, is now also being split by an additional 60 million people. This is going to continue to get worse, and we need to focus on economic policies that will raise the wages of the working people so they can afford a house and they can invest in assets so they can eventually climb the ladder. Because it clearly, the trickle-down economics over 45 years did not.
The Federal Reserve is printing us into poverty. They're the ones that giving BlackRock and State Street all the money, and the Fed, yes or no?
Infinite money.
Listen, the Fed...
The
Fed is the center of all problems, including all the war machine. You know, without fiat currency, we couldn't
drive the war machine. It functions to funnel money to Wall Street away from the American middle class. It functions to destroy local controls, local economies, Main Street, small businesses, and to financialize our economy and to send all of our industry abroad. So it needs fundamental reforms. My uncle saw that. Well, that's why my uncle launched the silver certificate, the gold certificate. He understood what it was doing was corrupt, and that, he was trying to figure out a way to get us at least a little bit back toward base currency.
If a billionaire robs a bank, they call it a tax break. If a disabled person asks for help, they call it a crisis. They say the UK's broke. No money for care, no money for school meals, no money for disability benefits. Meanwhile, the 5 richest families in the UK own more wealth than 13 million people. The top 50 families, more than half the entire country. For sure, let's take 40 quid a week from someone with MS. That'll fix the economy, right? Here's what they don't tell you. Income of £160,000 a year puts you in the top 1% of income earners. But to crack the top 1% of wealth, you'll need assets in excess of 3.6 million. Let's assume that from the moment you were pushed out of your mother's womb, you earned 160k a year. And let's assume you saved half of your post-tax income. It will still take you 76 years to get there. And even then, you'll still die on the outside looking in. Because income is rented power. Wealth is inherited control. We're not broke. We're being looted in slow motion. This isn't a budget. It's a heist with paperwork. And the only reason it works? They've convinced you the getaway driver's in a wheelchair. If you're angry, good.
Most important research outfit in the world, Oxfam, located in Britain, keeps track of this, gave their annual report. And it added up the experience of the roughly 3,000 billionaires that exist in the world today. Across the year 2024 just ended, the collective wealth of the 300 billionaires rose by over $6 billion per day.
God, that's incredible.
Okay, so look what I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Capitalism as a global system is making those already super wealthy even more super wealthy.
Right, but what's amazing about extraordinary is that you're saying as our economy declines, as working class people's lives get worse, their wealth gets more concentrated and higher. I mean, that's like really seems to me a horrible prescription for people.
Unfortunately, if we had better leaders, they would be talking to us about.
How rich is Elon Musk? Well, the median American family's net worth is about $192,000. Compare that to Elon's net worth of $252 billion. That's a big number, but let's put it into perspective. If you're a median American and you go to buy this Frappuccino, it would cost you $6.45. Proportional to Elon's net worth, that would be like him spending half of a thousandth of a penny. If you bought the top-of-the-line Cybertruck, this monstrosity would set you back about $93,000. To Elon, that would feel like 7 cents. If you wanted to buy an average home in America, assuming you could pay cash for the entire thing, it would cost you about $375,000. For Elon, to buy this home in cash, he would have to fish out of his pocket 29 cents. If you saw $100 on the ground and you spent 5 seconds picking it up, you would get $100. The last 5 years, Elon has been making money so fast that if he wasted 5 seconds picking up $100, it would cost him over $38,000. What about this 295-foot super yacht? To you, it costs $135 million. To Elon, that feels like $102. So how rich is Elon Musk?
Wealth inequality in the United States actually looks like. This grain of rice represents $200,000. That's about the median net worth of a citizen in the United States, which means if you took our population and drew a line split down the middle, about half of us have this much or less. Half of us have this much or less. Just going to put that down right there. 1 grain of rice. This is $1 million. 5 grains of rice. When most of us think rich, we think of $1 million. This is $100 million. This is about the net worth of CEOs who delay and deny care for sick Americans. This is also about the net worth of CEOs who tell Americans to eat cereal if they can't afford food for their hungry kids. This is $1 billion. This is the approximate net worth of Vivek Ramaswamy. Only 800 people in the United States have this much money or more. As a frame of reference, think about how many people you went to high school with. Only 800. And this is $6.3 billion. This is the approximate net worth of Donald Trump. And this is Elon Musk. He's worth $400 billion, while we have homeless veterans on our streets and hungry kids in our schools. This is what actual wealth disparity looks like in America. Each grain of rice is worth $200,000. Now that we finished the civics lesson, let's talk biology. Did you know that all human beings, no matter how much money they have, are all immortal? We're all made of flesh and bone, we all have to eat, and we all have to sleep. The American dream has been stolen from you. What happens to a dream deferred?
Is Jeffrey Preston Bezos. That's his middle name? Yes, it is. Okay, I have some things that are going to tell you how rich he is. Okay. If you made $7,000 an hour every hour since Jesus walked the earth. $7,000 every hour. Since Jesus walked the earth. So 2,025 years ago. Okay. You'd still have less money than Jeff Bezos. So that's a lot of money. That is a lot of money. Jeffrey Preston Bezos. Yeah, sorry. At his peak, he made $3,715 a second. That's ridiculous. Which is about $222,000 a minute, which is 5 times the amount of the average salary in the United States. You know what is mind-boggling to me? These people that are so rich can literally solve world hunger. Oh, you want to talk about that, Brian? No, I think they actually can. He could buy every NFL team right now and have money left over. So for $150 billion, he could buy everything and still have $52 billion. A lot of money left over, yeah. Jeff Bezos' wealth is more than the GDP of over 130 countries. Not the USA. Not the USA. We're too rich for it. US of A, baby. Too rich. If Jeff Bezos' wealth was stacked in $100 bills, it would reach the moon. It would reach space. God, that guy needs to get his numbers up. And then you said world hunger before, but Jeff Bezos, he could fund the entire US education.
The 10,000-year clock is?
10,000-year clock is a physical clock of monumental scale. It's about 500 feet tall. It's inside a mountain in West Texas in a chamber that's about 12 feet in diameter and 500 feet tall. The 10,000-year clock is an idea conceived by a brilliant guy named Danny Hillis way back in the 80s. The idea is to build a clock as a symbol for long-term thinking. It ticks once a year. It chimes once, every 100 years, and the cuckoo comes out once every 1,000 years. So it just sort of slows everything down. It's a completely mechanical clock. It is designed to last 10,000 years with no human intervention. So the material choices and everything else. It's in a remote location, both to protect it, but also so that visitors have to kind of make a pilgrimage.
Amazon totally screwed Toys R Us and put them out of business. Back in the 2000s, Toys R Us made Amazon the exclusive retailer for their products. But in true douchebag fashion, Amazon broke the deal, letting other toy sellers on Amazon too. Toys R Us then sued and won $51 million, but it was already too late. By this point, the $51 million was just a cost of doing business for Amazon, and Toys R Us was left with no clue how to sell toys online. By 2021, Toys R Us closed their last store, while Jeff Bezos launched his Blue Origin rocket into space.
What we're going to do is we're going to sign for Toys R Us to sell all of the land under every store they own in the United States. You know what we're going to have them sell it to? Our sister firm that we also own, that's our real estate investment trust. We're going to sell it to ourselves for cheap. We're going to lease it back to them for expensive. So now they have a lease they didn't have when they were still successful. So next, we're going to look at all their warehouses where they have backstock that carries them over in economic downturn. And we're going to sell that to a liquidator. All of the extra stock. And we're going to sell the warehouses. Maybe to our real estate investment firm, we can lease those back too. All of the infrastructure that Toys R Us had built over 100 years to become the successful powerhouse it was, they decimated in literally 2 years. And at the end of this, Toys R Us can no longer make their payments to the bank. So they're going to have to file bankruptcy. And then what's going to happen is all of the assets that Toys R Us have left, which is largely only the intellectual property at this point, we're going to have a fire sale. And you know who's going to buy it for pennies on the dollar? One of our sister private equity firms. And they're going to get the intellectual property. Then we're going to sell that to Macy's to use. And then we're going to go buy Macy's and we're going to start over again.
BlackRock, right, have just bought £1.4 billion worth of UK homes. Lloyds Bank want to build a portfolio of 50,000 homes by 2030. That's public information. What we're seeing right now is massive institutions buying up all of our homes across the UK, right? We're not going to live in a society where you can own your own home. You will just rent. We'll become a society of renters. And that will probably happen over the next 15, 20 years. It isn't like this is probably one of the last buying cycles you can have. And what's sad about that is that if you are, 85-year-old Paul, right, and you can't afford your rent this month, normally you call up your landlord, and despite what people say and media says, like most landlords are good, humane people, you come to some sort of agreement, right? But you can't call up a massive US private equity firm based in New York, right? And to them, you're just a line item, right? It's going to be really, really bad.
Right. And one of the things you'll notice is everyone behind me is a Westerner with a laptop. These are called digital nomads.
Digital nomads. Digital nomads have become a bit of a phenomena lately of remote workers from the developed world taking their work and living abroad, often in poorer nations.
Do you want to become a digital nomad this year? Let me explain to you how you can make that happen even in just 3 months.
Now, I know on the surface this just looks like people having fun in the sun, but you have to bear in mind what's really going on here. These are talented entrepreneurial individuals who our country has spent 20 odd years investing in. From their health to their education, we pumped a lot of money into them, and now they're taking those skills and setting up businesses in countries that aren't Britain. Whole lot of foreigners. This is a bit of a...
How get no taxes? How can you afford to build all this stuff?
Slaves. It's slaves. I'm probably now banned from getting my digital nomad visa, so I'll tell you about it. So 60 to 70% of the UAE's workforce is very low-wage migrant workers, mainly from Southeast Asia. The workers that build the skyscrapers, that clean the 17-star hotels, and that serve you your matcha lupa latte. These lot are not really living the Dubai dream. They arrive under what's called the kafala system, where their legal status is tied to their employer, which means that they're not allowed to switch jobs. And when they enter the country, pretty much their passports get confiscated, and they can't leave. They do earn some money, but the money is terrible. Often their payments get delayed or just not paid at all, and they have no other option but to live in these crammed labor camps that look like prisons, that sleep 6 to a room after they've just worked a 10-15 hour shift in 45-degree heat. And the thing is, right, even Dubai themselves know that this model can't last. Tax economy like Dubai, where 90% of the population are foreigners and a majority of them are basically human trafficked slaves, that economy it can't last. When only rich people are able to spend and everyone else is just servicing them, basically the economy is unsustainable. We'll get more into that in a little bit. But next we want to jump on the plane and fly over to Singapore. Singapore is like the poster child for like the high-tech, clean, efficient country. They have very low taxes, but they are kind of interesting in that the state owns all the land and they provide lots of social housing. But they too have a pretty dirty little secret, which happens to be also an incredibly poorly paid labor force of migrant workers. They bring them in from the Philippines, Myanmar and Malaysia, and a good amount of them live in cupboards or laundry closets. That is literally Harry Potter, as they're like maids in their employees' houses. It is very weird. Amid calls to improve living conditions for foreign workers here in Singapore, experts say many issues must first be solved, such as changing mindsets and other practical issues. These lot can work up to 6 days a week. They get paid less than minimum wage. And while Singaporeans themselves may have good labor protections, the migrant workers are excluded from the Netherlands and other Nordic nations. They too have seen a rise in skilled migrants into their country. But these are places that pay taxes. Lots of taxes. 50 to 60% of taxes. And yet people are being chained and forced to come into this country. Somehow they're walking in voluntarily. Who'd have thunk it? And so you might be wondering, why is that? Well, you see, in these glorious Nordic model Scandinavian countries, the trains run on time. Childcare doesn't bankrupt you. Ambulances don't ask you for your insurance card before your blood type. Because in these nations, whilst life is taxed, it is actually livable, safer, and happier. And the thing about this is it actually tells us like a sort of uncomfortable truth. The real crisis as to why people might be leaving Britain might not be because the weather sucks, and might not be because people are running from our taxes. They might be running from countries that take your taxes and don't really give you much in return. Britain, to me, increasingly lately, just feels like a hostile place to live. It always feels like it's out to fucking get me. Every time a bill comes through my door, I have a mini panic attack, because it's always £1,000 every time for some reason.
pal. I should say about £1,000.
Parking tickets are insane. Every time I want to go get a nice coffee in town, I pay just as much for the parking for 20 minutes. So then sometimes when I, don't pay it, I get a parking fine of nearly £100. Our towns are visibly decaying, and just the rising cost of everything just makes life depressing. And on top of that, when you see the fact that the wealthiest people are getting so rich, all the while it just feels like every big business delivers the lowest customer service possible. They're constantly cutting money. If something goes wrong with some product that you paid for, you spend half a day on their customer service talking to robots. And all of that, I haven't even begun talking about.
You asked the question in your book, The Creature from Jekyll Island, what is the Federal Reserve, and what is your answer?
Well, what it is, it's a cartel. It's not a government agency. It has the appearance of it being a government agency, and they went to great lengths to give it that facade. It does have the power of government because Congress voted to give the power of enforcement to it. But in its essence, underneath it, it's a cartel. It's nothing different than a banana cartel or an oil cartel or sugar cartel. It happens to be a banking cartel. They got together, they drew up the rules and regulations for their own industry. To self-regulate their own industry is what cartels do. And then they sent it to Congress, and they took off the label at the top that said banking cartel, and they erased that, and they said Federal Reserve Act. Congress passed it into law, and that's why we think it's a government agency, is because if you don't obey the rules that they set down for their own industry, you go to prison. And so it looks like a government agency. But basically, the answer to your question is, it's a banking...
Most of us have heard of the Rothschild family. It's wild how few people know what they actually do and how they made their money. You see, their wealth began with a Jewish man named Amschel Moses Bauer, who opened a counting house in Frankfurt, Germany in 1743, 280 years ago. And above the door, he placed a sign depicting a Roman eagle with a red shield. The shop became known as the Red Shield Firm, or Rothschild in German. And when Amschel passed this store down to his son, Meyer, he changed his surname from Bauer to Rothschild after the store. And that is where the domination begins. Meyer scaled his father's business of dealing coins and lending money until he learned something that literally changed the course of history. He realized that lending money to governments and kings is far more profitable than lending money to private individuals because not only were the loans much bigger, but they were secured by us, the nation's taxpayers. So when you hear about governments in debt trillions of dollars, well, they are in debt to private central banks that are set up by the likes of the Rothschilds. So after learning this information, Meyer, who had 5 sons, trained them in the art of money creation and sent them on a mission to set up banks in Frankfurt, Germany, London, England, Paris, France, Vienna, Austria, and Naples, Italy, and in effect becoming the first bank to transcend borders. Using these skills and the initial sum of money that their father gave them, they grew the Rothschild empire to a scale so enormous, the son in France, for example, became 150 million francs richer than every other banker in the country combined. And because they had banks all over Europe, they went on to finance both sides of the Napoleonic Wars. They once saved the Bank of England from collapse with their own money, for a fee, of course. They essentially provided the money for the industrialization of America and Europe, financing everything from construction of railroads, factories, mining and printing companies. They financed the British purchase of the Suez Canal, raised the money that Brazil needed to pay for its liberation from Portugal, and when the British government issued the Balfour Declaration letter supporting an establishment of a national home for Jewish people, the Israel we know today, it was addressed to Lionel Walter Rothschild. And remember Meyer, the father of those 5 sons? Well, before he died, he said that he wanted to keep the enormous fortune within the family. So in his will, he outlined a rigid system of succession whereby the title and property could only pass through the male line and female descendants were excluded from any direct inheritance. But the problem is that this had the effect of encouraging marriages among family members. Between these dates, there were 36 marriages. Of these, 30 were within the family, most of them marrying first or second cousins. Talk about keeping it within the family. Literally. Fast forward to today, it's really hard to estimate the family's true wealth because over 280 years, they've produced hundreds of descendants, many of which have started their own thing and many with little business ambition at all. And because there's endless tricks in business to hide one's true wealth with shell companies, trust funds, assets not in your name, etc., we may never know the true wealth of the Rothschild family.
Welcome back, welcome back. Thank you. If you've made it this way to the very end, Thank you again. Like everything on the sides have said during the whole thing, please like, share, subscribe, hype the video. Always comment. I want to hear your thoughts, man. I want to hear anybody's thoughts about any of the things that I'm dropping right now, because I just want to pick your brain, because it's inside of my brain. And if it's not in your brain, now it's going to be in your brain, because it was in my brain. You feel me? So, other than that, I don't want to keep you that long. You beautiful person, whoever you are, wherever you are, always say the positive, never to the negative. Always remember that. Go out with the day, baby. You play, you only get one life to live. You better live it for today. With that being said, again, peace, y'all.